It's been one full trip around the sun into the Jensen. Join me for this episode where I'll discuss the leaked audio of Shohei Ohtani's interpreter, plus break down the AFC and NFC championship games on this episode of the Scho-Zone. All right, everybody, welcome to the Scho-Zone. It is your host, Ryan Schofield. I am coming at you live on a Saturday night in the Jensen. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Like, subscribe, comment, share, all of that douchebag stuff that podcast hosts like myself say. And I'm just going to give myself a little, maybe blow out the candle, a little standing ovation here. I am recording this. It's 1 year ago today that I started recording this podcast last year. Didn't really know what I was doing when I got into it. Not saying I really know much better of what I am, but have made some progress along the way. Have some goals I have yet to hit that I'm still looking to surge forward onto. So thank you for everybody who has tuned in and listened to an episode of the Scho-Zone. Anyone who has shared, liked, subscribed, comment, anything that douchebag stuff that I ask everybody to do. But thank you for coming into the Scho-Zone on the 1 year anniversary episode. Normally don't like the idea of recording live on a Saturday night if I can help it, but there's a couple of people here watching, listening, so don't be afraid to let me know who you are, where you are, and again, thank you for tuning in. It's been a long, strange journey as far as, again, I just had the equipment out from a failed endeavor before and just decided, you know what, this is the winter time. I have nothing better to do. Let's just let it rip on here. Actually, some of the earlier episodes, I did have a very, very good episode that no one saw. I uncovered a really, really good Super Bowl bet that if anybody watched it, did win. So hopefully I can make a duplicate performance of that this upcoming year. No promises are guaranteed, but if I'm letting down hundreds of people, well, that's a good problem minus the part I don't want to let anybody down. I try to be straight with everything. One thing I was straight for on this one, and actually someone who's been instrumental to the success of the Scho-Zone as far as I was able to get a lot of content, gain a lot of subscribers off of, has been Mr. Shohei Ohtani. He's also been somebody who's been very beneficial to my bankroll over the season. Again, if you're watching this, I have me and a buddy of mine cracked the code a while ago as far as that Shohei Ohtani during the daytime performs at a much higher clip than at nighttime. And we've been locking in that Shohei Ohtani over 1.5 total bases on daytime baseball games. File that away for later use, although the odds have kind of bucked on that one. But one of the things that I've been a huge supporter of Shohei Ohtani, not just because I like him as a player, but also I like examining all the information when it comes to certain news stories. And one news story that has just never, ever, since it was printed, has never been reported properly on was this alleged Shohei Ohtani gambling scandal. I was somebody who held back my judgment at the time. I said that, when the story first broke, the idea that Shohei Ohtani was this massive degenerate gambler, and then it was, that his interpreter was involved with it somehow. And then as the story started coming out that he was not actually gambling and that his interpreter had frauded him and done all of this, I seem to find it to be totally plausible. Most people did not. The court of a public opinion made up their mind a long time ago, and now as we're finding, as new information has been revealed, that the court of public opinion does not ever change their mind on anything. That's what makes them the court of public opinion. That's why I'm just always, I think everything back to a George Carlin thing. Think of the average person and realize that half of people are dumber than that. People made up their minds. And we're starting to get between nobody reading the Department of Justice court summary against Ippei Mizuhara, the attorney or the interpreter who is reported to have been or is actually being charged with the one who actually made those bets, not Ohtani, then also impersonated Ohtani and stole money from him. That's been the story for a while now. Most people they've never moved off the idea. I had to go through an entire season of dumb jokes, okay? Everybody who has made a joke about Ohtani gambling, you're all making the same 3 jokes anyways. If you're going to be unfunny, at least try to be original, but you're unfunny and original when you're making those jokes and showing that you're not really that well informed. I tinkered around with the idea of doing an episode where I actually read that 17-page Department of Justice summary, which I might post a link in the description on this one. Again, this will be posted on the YouTube channel, which you're watching it on right now. And if you ever don't have time to, because I don't have a real good recording schedule, that's one thing I need to learn 1 year into this one. Have some consistency, Ryan, but I have no consistency in my life whatsoever. I'm just flying by the seat of my pants, trying to make something happen, and hopefully just get a little better every day as I go forward. But if you do like the idea of maybe catching me on some audio format, maybe this helps you get pumped up. Maybe this helps you get, stay focused and engaged. We are available on most podcast streaming platforms on there. And again, we have decent little number of people in here watching and viewing me on here. So again, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Like, subscribe, comment, share, all that douchebag stuff that hosts like myself say. Feel free to shoot me an email at thesco-zone@gmail.com or hit me up on any of the social medias that we have going here. So I'm going to try and be a little adventurous as far as, I've got this wonderful streaming tool that I have to try to make this show a little bit more fun and involved. Not really that good at doing it. I was actually just a guest on a different show, which again, I'm going to plug. I was on the 4040 Sports What If. What was the actual name of the channel on there? Anyways, I was on a podcast with a guy named Khalid. Did a nice, the 3 biggest what ifs in St. Louis Cardinals history. Again, at one point in time, the background on here, I am a St. Louis Cardinals fan. The way that they are going, I'm just a baseball fan right now. They're not going to really keep me too interested. I have spent more money on this podcast in the past month. And since the baseball season ended, I've spent more money on this podcast than the St. Louis Cardinals have spent on a baseball team that they're putting on the field. That's sad. I haven't spent that much money, but again, any money that has been spent on this podcast is more than the DeWitts have spent on the Cardinals. So I'm just going to focus myself on baseball a little bit right now. But so I started hearing this on the radio of all places, that people started saying, hey, maybe we owe Shohei Ohtani an apology based on this audio that's been leaked, because the interpreter, Ippei Mizuhara, he has been in court now dealing with the fact that everyone had this idea that Ippei Mizuhara was just a fall guy for Ohtani, forgetting that he's actually facing some major criminal charges from what went down in that whole event. And everyone's got in their head, because we've seen so many movies and, have it all sensationalized for us, that they believe that he is just going to be helping. That MLB does not want their golden child, Ohtani, to be in any kind of trouble. But it wasn't ever that surprising to me, the idea that Ippei Mizuhara was the gatekeeper of talking to Ohtani, that maybe, just maybe, he would create the illusion, if somebody with a serious gambling problem, as I know these people, may do anything to uphold this certain lifestyle. We're now seeing a quote out there right now. What is the exact quote here from Ippei? It's going viral in most degenerate group chats here. I've got it here. Ippei is quoted now as saying, "I only saw hope in life while I was gambling." I've been there. I've done that. That's a really, really dark place to be. Clearly, Ippei was there at some point in time. So what the smoking gun was for me, that, I always was a little skeptical of the idea that Ohtani could be this level of a baseball player, but also not saying a guy can't have a gambling problem, but to have the type of gambling problem that was profiled, which it turns out to be Mizuhara's, as far as all hours of the day, never on baseball, mostly on things like soccer and basketball, I believe, was the big cup of tea. But you would find it very hard, or at least for him to be doing this through somebody else, and for none of the messages to ever get traced back to Ohtani. He would have to be a better criminal than he would be a gambler, that's for sure. But I would have to think, if somebody had everything all buttoned in a row, and the fact that he has the money that he has, he would really, really need to have a gambling problem if he was gambling. But we're going to get a little bit more on this. I'm going to play you the audio that was leaked, because when you read that Department of Justice filing, which again, I thought about reading as an entire episode, I almost fell asleep reading it. So I can't imagine that watching me read it or listening to me read it would be much more entertaining. But if anybody was to say, hey, they don't have the time to read it, or just lacks the wherewithal to do it, maybe I will record it. Maybe I'll put it out there when I come dry on content. It is old news now, though. But there was some very damning information there, as far as the only IP addresses that ever accessed Ohtani's bank account belonged to devices that were controlled by Mizuhara. The contact number, and this is going to play up really big in the audio I'm about to play for you, was the verification contact was all through Mizuhara's personal cell phone. And also, we had the idea that money was not getting paid, which is where this whole issue kind of came about. And it does appear that we now have this smoking gun evidence. The audio leaked, which, if you have an open mind towards this, can kind of exonerate Shohei Ohtani of any wrongdoing, I guess we would say. But again, some people have made up their mind, and I'll address that later. Without further ado, I'm going to try something different here for the video element. If you are watching this now on the, if you're listening to this on audio, you're not even going to know much what's going on here. But let's see if I can add in this. Okay, we're going to get the video file. We're going to do the share screen here. Okay, perfect. Got this going on. And Let's play you the audio of Ippei Mizuhara calling the bank, pretending to be Shohei Ohtani.
For calling. Line fraud. This call may be monitored and recorded. Who am I speaking with? Thank you.
So I log into online banking, tells me that it's not available to me at this time. I need to call.
Sure, I can take a look into that. I can take a look into that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, everything's still coming up for me. It'll be just a few more moments, please.
Okay. I tried to make a wire transfer a couple of days ago. They told me that that's probably the reason, so they transferred me to this number.
Okay. Alrighty. Now, the number ending, that's the best contact number for you?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, real quickly, the number that was just blurred out just then and there was actually Ippei Mizuhara's number that they had said, okay? So this was, he's now got himself set as the contact for any changes that take place for any of you who have any extra security. I mean, that's just on my regular checking account. I have that. I can't imagine if there was as much money as was allegedly in, or is in Ohtani's bank account. The guy does pretty well for himself. Again, also has a deferred contract that he is not collecting anything on it, but it mostly has plenty of endorsement money. Let's get back to listen to the rest of the audio on this one, though.
So I'm going to send a one-time authorization code to your text messaging. Can you provide me with that 6-digit code when it becomes available?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. 663368.
Thank you. Alrighty. And could you tell me the name of the payee and the amount of the transaction, please?
The person I'm sending to?
Yes.
It's for $200,000.
Thank you. Alrighty. Now, recently we come across a trend of fraud and scams. So we have been monitoring the online transactions closely to make sure our clients are not the victim of either. What is the reason for this transaction?
For a car loan?
Okay. You said it's for a car loan?
Yes.
Okay. What is your relationship to the payee?
He's my friend.
Okay, okay. And have you
business?
Okay. Have you met your friend in person?
Yes, many times.
Okay. And I just asked because, we haven't been able to verify the transaction. How did he go about giving you his wire information? Is it something that was given to you over the phone, through email, text messaging?
He emailed to me.
Okay. Did you have the opportunity to verbally speak with the payee and verify the wire information?
Yes, when I see him in person, we talk about it.
Okay. So you seen him in person and you went over the wire numbers?
Yes.
Okay. Will there be any future wires to your friend?
Possibly.
Okay. All righty. If I can ask you to bear with me just a few moments, I'm going to take a look into getting this resolved for you, and you'll hear silence as I'm working on this, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So that was the audio of Ippei impersonating Shohei Ohtani on that phone call right there to try and transfer. I'm not sure. I don't believe the lady on the phone believed what was going on. And at least I have someone who has worked in processing things and dealt with fraudulent transactions. It sounds like that she was inquiring, or it sounds like that she was skeptical that this was actually on the level or legitimate, and was asking for some additional information, noticing that there had been, throwing that general thing out there. Hey, we've had some fraudulent transactions. We're just trying to protect our customers on there. Just really curious, though, how Shohei Ohtani needs to call in to get wire transferred to himself for a car loan, nothing was really adding up about that. But ultimately, what you have there was actually Ippei being caught by the bank trying to impersonate Ohtani was, I believe, the evidence that it was being positioned as. To me, that makes pretty straightforward straight sense right there. Now, again, there are the people, I'll say the one doubt of this one is that, well, one of the reasons that makes me believe is that there's some people that are asking, how do we know that that's not Ohtani on the phone? Well, again, I'm sure Ohtani speaks a little bit of English, but not enough to carry a conversation with a financial institute. That's just my understanding on there. Also, that didn't really, again, I know that I've heard Ohtani speak in English, but that voice does not match the look of Ohtani or what we've ever heard audio-wise come from him. That does look more like, we hear the celebration of, him yelling, you sober, you sober. Doesn't sound like that guy. That sounds like a pretty desperate individual, to be honest with you, that knows he's doing something wrong, if I had to guess. Just listen to that audio. It doesn't sound like that guy's up to any good, basically. But this is where the whole issue came about of why we even know about this or how it got to this level is that the money was not getting paid. If Ohtani was losing the money, he wouldn't have had a problem withdrawing it and paying it. The issue is that Ohtani doesn't really care as much about his money as that other people. Everyone else is a pocket watcher. We assume that he knows everything that goes in and out of his bank account. I think he probably knows he has a bunch of money coming in and he's just focused on playing baseball. That's the way I understand the guy to be. But this was Ippei Mizuhara attempting to get some money to be able to pay off the gambling debt to keep this lifestyle that he had going, okay? Now, the idea that the bookie believed the bets were coming from Ohtani, that's a whole different subject altogether. But we are noticing that the guy didn't have a problem getting paid and that Ippei Mizuhara had to go to these levels rather than because he couldn't win his money back gambling. He was now stealing from his employer, which he was making a $500. Ohtani comes out looking like a better guy in this one because apparently he was making $250,000 for the Angels, and Ohtani got it up to $500,000 with the Dodgers. He was also paying him a personal salary and also got him a Porsche. So as far as everyone wondering how this guy got the credit line that he got, I mean, there is the idea he misled them, that he was putting them in for Ohtani. Or actually, that is outlined in the DOG summary because when at one point in time the bookie was having a hard time getting paid, the guy says, hey, I've got the guy right here. He's referring to Ohtani, talking to Ippei, saying he's walking his dog right now. Should I just go talk to him right now myself? And Ippei does not want anything to do with that one. But it sounds like he gets caught up in trying to wire that $200,000. Now, this is where some people have maybe said, maybe we owe Shohei Ohtani an apology. Those are what we call open-minded people. Everyone's allowed to be wrong. As I always remember finding out this argument when I first got into the logic. What was it rational for people who thought the world was flat before it was proven to be round, which we're not going to revisit that argument. It's round. But was it rational for people to believe it was flat until Copernicus proved it was round? And the answer is it's irrational, even though based on all the information that they had, it's okay to think that they just still are too wrong. Now, there's one thing to be irrational and an idiot, where you don't change your mind, but it's another thing to be irrational and double down on it, where anybody who has made an Ohtani gambling joke or anybody who for any reason seemed that they really wanted that story to be true has just said that, no, this just shows that this guy's a fall guy. How do we know Ohtani's not in the room with him? Like that they literally went through all of these levels to possibly be able to make it so that if what had happened, if they got caught, they had all their tracks covered. I have been around degenerates my entire life. No degenerate is ever that careful. Every paper trail leads to somewhere, which, by the way, too, this guy didn't always lose. I mean, yes, he was a horrible, horrible loser, but there was some times that he did get money and he did collect that money. None of that ever made its way back to Ohtani's accounts. Just worth mentioning there. But you do have the people who have now, they're just going to double down on their idiocy, and that's a terrible thing to do. More and more people are saying that this just almost further believes now this bigger conspiracy that they have, that MLB and the Department of Justice and everybody under the sun has got to cover for Shohei Ohtani, or he got ripped off by his interpreter. What's the Occam's razor? What's the easiest explanation for you to understand? Again, anybody that has any thoughts on this, like, subscribe, comment, share, all that douchebag stuff that I say. Let me hear what you think, at least. So everyone, and thank you. We have 40 people in here. Hopefully that means I got 40 new subscribers, or hopefully that means you guys are just loyal watchers and maybe I got a couple new ones along the way. But everyone, thanks for tuning in on this one. So I just wanted to play that call out there, just mostly to prove to myself that I could do that, make this a little bit fun and exciting. But for me, I think that Ohtani has been shown to be innocent, and hopefully time will lend, be nice to him. But I just think that we're going to have more and more idiots making dumb jokes throughout the season. If I see one more, picture of him and his fiance and it's got a gambling caption on them, some of these things were maybe funny for like the first day or two. It's kind of like the Ohtani jokes are kind of almost like Hawk Tua girl. That Hawk Tua, yeah, that whole meme and that whole fly-by-night thing, that was funny for maybe a day or two. Occam's razor, the most likely outcome is probably the truth. Yes, absolutely, Stefan. We know the truth better than most, I guess I would say, But, yeah, I think that that's, plays in Shohei Ohtani's favor and that we're all done with this one. Again, just a random off-the-cuff thing, but I remember, Hawk Tua had been going on for a little bit. I remember being in Minneapolis, which I have many reasons to hate Minneapolis. Never seeing a guy with that, if I don't want to talk to her, if she don't want to Hawk to her, like literally the second that person ordered that shirt, it was already not funny anymore. And then they had to wait those couple days for it to arrive. And now they're stuck with the $26 that they spent plus shipping and wearing that one. No one cares. And that was before she ripped off everybody allegedly and has now disappeared from the face of the earth. What maybe we'll have a Where Are They Now at some point on Hawk 2 again. Maybe I'll do the 1-year anniversary of when she threw out the first pitch to the Mets. Who knows? But that's enough with baseball right now. That's the only thing we got going on. The Dodgers, people think are ruining baseball because all they're doing now is signing all the free agents and paying them good money. Damn them for trying to field a competitive team. Damn them for being accused of ruining baseball when all they've done is won World Series with this new spending regime. Again, I don't count the 2021. That's a conversation for a different day. But winning the 2024 World Series, and now they have only won one World Series, and everyone said they're ruining baseball. We went through this in my childhood in the late 90s and the early 2000s with the Yankees and the Evil Empire, where they actually did win a couple of World Series. And everyone said that they think that the idea of their having the superpower in baseball is terrible for it. But I kind of remember that being a pretty popular time for baseball because it was nice to galvanize every fan base to hating one fan base. It used to be the Yankees. Now we've moved west. It's the Dodgers now. We can all get together and just hate the Dodgers. Every team that plays the Dodgers is now my favorite team for the upcoming season. That is not bad. I will find myself tuning in any close Dodgers game down in the late stretch, late in the game, because I'm going to want to see them lose because I don't like seeing them doing the things I wish that my beloved Cardinals did, spending money, fielding a product that's worth spending money to go see in person, okay? Every baseball team has money to spend. It's just whether they choose to spend it. And everyone says, okay, two ideas. I like the idea of the salary floor. Let's have these bottom feeder teams actually be forced to spend some money. Everyone points out the idea, though, of wanting a salary cap. And I'm going to segue into the football conversation as to what good a salary cap does, because I got to steal this tweet from, I don't have it readily available on here, but I can post it. Gentleman posted here. The Chiefs are going to the AFC Championship for the 7th year in a row. Something must be done about super teams. The NFL is dying and losing fans. Classic troll job by a gentleman named Mike Petriello. That's exactly what's happening right now, is that we have this idea that a salary cap will make everything better. It'll shift the balance of power there. Or it's just have the right players, because the Kansas City Chiefs, they have their quarterback. They have their Patrick Mahomes. And because of that, for 7 straight years, they've been competing to go to a Super Bowl or have actually made it to the Super Bowl. And in a few cases, won that Super Bowl. I am really, really hoping that does not happen again. And I'm going to lend myself into my conference championship predictions or just random thoughts on this one. Look, regular season, you just got to throw it out, okay? I mean, it just is what it is, especially where I'm kind of noticing this with all of the sports, is that I have not been able to keep up to date on the regular seasons as well as I have. I have done okay in the postseason because it's not about who you were, it's who you are right now. And that being said, the Chiefs to me are still that team that they have all the reasons for me to want to pick against them. Nothing about them is flashy or sexy. In fact, they pissed off every gambler they possibly could last week because there was no money to be made betting the money line on the Chiefs. You could have put them in a teaser maybe, but if you didn't decide to lay the points, well, I'll say this one. There's a reason why I always preach, if you are betting, to try to get the best of the number. Chiefs were -7.5, 8.5 all week, closed at 9.5. Probably should have only won the game by 8 points. The Texans were down by 11 points late. Did that thing that I hate where teams kick field goals instead of trying to go for Hail Marys. They had the field goal blocked, but then the Chiefs ended up taking a safety to run out some clock and make it so that it was ensure a victory for them. And they ended up landing right on that number of 9. Everyone said, oh, tell me sports aren't fixed. Well, from what I understand, the sports books were not a big fan of that one because anybody that took the Chiefs at their best number, which was 7.5, and took the Texans at their best number, which was 9.5, they just hit both bets on there. And there are plenty of people that do stuff like that. They don't bet teams, they bet numbers. So there's a chance that some things went awry on that one. The Chiefs, I'm not going to turn this into the ref show thing. I mean, I'll just say this. It's not good for the NFL that the average fan is in belief that the games are on the up and up and that everything is rigged in the Chiefs' favor. And we are finally starting to see a little bit now. Gambling interests, I feel like that falsely inflates our actual watching interests in these games. But we are seeing that there is a decline. The divisional series had I think a 4-year low in ratings, or I know that they had a setback in the ratings on there. And those were with some premier matchups as far as I'm concerned. We had the Bills and the Ravens by far being the most sexy of all the picks going on there. The Texans and the Chiefs maybe didn't draw all the star power it should have, but the Commanders and the Lions, Lions have kind of been, float around. Like the Lions and the Bills are kind of getting teased around as like these, pseudo America's team because we know it ain't the Cowboys anymore. The Cowboys America's team is just nothing more than a little bit of a troll job in its own. But the Chiefs have done nothing. Nothing has come easy for the Chiefs this year. They have needed the occasional call here and there. I could show you numbers that say it's on the up and up. I could show you numbers that say that it's no more pronounced for them than on any other team, as I am kind of multitasking right now. I got a little bit of degenerate side action here, a little bit of college basketball. FanDuel, you feed me a boost, and if I've won some money throughout the day, I'm probably going to put it to the test. So I've got Tennessee on the money line for the first half. They are tied with 4 minutes to go. Got a plus 270 payout on that, so I'll be live sweating that while I live broadcast to you, to our lovely crowd. Again, thanks everybody for tuning in, and thank you for listening. Again, like, subscribe, comment, share, all of the douchebag stuff that podcast hosts like myself say. Normally not a Saturday Night Live episode. Maybe we start doing Saturday Night Live in the Scho-Zone. Who knows? It's a time period that I can guarantee because, my work schedule kind of makes it that I'm available to do such activities. The Bills, maybe this is me talking, is that, believe it or not, growing up, I used to be very super negative about the Bills, okay? I grew up as a Bills fan. I moved to where I went to college in Western New York. Part of the reason I was part of the Bills, I may have been hook, line, and sinkered in. This was one of those years that usually my resentment with Bills fans was always that they had the team way up here and I was way down here. Now, there was a little bit of a time and evening act, but because of the obnoxious level of Bills fans that they can be, they are a truly passionate to a fault fan base sometimes. I saw the separation on there. Going into this season where everyone thought this was a step back year, as I just broke this down in our previous episode with Bills fan Dan, I actually liked them this year a little bit more than most people did. I look at this as being just a total team, and I've been kind of making the comparison to this year's Buffalo Bills teams to one of my favorite basketball teams ever, the 2011 Dallas Mavericks, where it was a cast of really good basketball players that knew their roles and played smart, sound basketball. And then they just had their closer in Dirk Nowitzki. I think that this whole thing is just built around, again, Josh Allen did not have to do a lot. It's more or less what Josh Allen's not doing that's helping them win, because everybody knows exactly what I'm talking about. The QB sneak that finally got stopped where it looked like he was going to do that lateral play. 2 years ago, he's definitely lateraling that ball, and probably the worst possible outcome is going to happen with it. That's just what I believe that was going to happen. But Josh Allen played with himself, relied on his team, and, some good planning there. Again, that was more about the running game on there. The Bills, they have a great offensive line. They have a good balanced attack. Get them to where it's still a game, and that guy, Josh Allen, can become your closer and can take you to that next level, I believe. Now, this is going to be the game. I believe that they're going to throw the kitchen sink out of there. The second half, the Bills seemed like they were playing against the clock more than the Ravens, which I'm just going to say kudos to the Ravens for maybe trying to prove Lamar Jackson was maybe a little bit more than, everyone realizes that the MVP was voted on at the end of the regular season, right? It felt like they were almost trying to vindicate him a little bit. As somebody who had a rooting interest in the Bills in that game, I will tell you, every time that the Ravens did not hand the ball off to Derrick Henry, I looked at it as a victory of a down. And that was even, Henry was kept in check in the first half, but it was just one of those things of that, how many body blows could that defense take? I think the Bills are much more suited. I think that the Ravens were actually a nightmare matchup. They just got the luxury of playing them in Buffalo, which I felt like offset the Lamar thing a little bit. I also believe that Lamar It's one of those weird things about how no one brought it up, but at the end of that Steelers game, he looked like he was pretty dinged up. And I'm going to say that Lamar was probably more dinged up than we realized because they did not have a single design run for Lamar Jackson in that entire game. And even the running that he did, I think it was like 6 carries for 39 yards. You live with that all day. If Lamar Jackson's only going to rush for 40 yards on you on 6 carries, I mean, yeah, maybe a couple of those are for first downs. You are taking that all day, every day. But the Derrick Henry was what I was worried about for them, and it didn't come to fruition. With the Chiefs, we have to wonder if they're on the rope-a-dope kind of thing, if that they've just been stringing us along, waiting to empty the kitchen sink themselves in this final game. I mean, Kelsey suddenly has a big game. Again, he does look every bit his age, or it does look like he has played his best football going forward. But that combination of Kelsey Mahomes, they find a way to make things happen. But I think the Bills can keep them in check. And more importantly, I think that the Chiefs, you can run on the Chiefs. The Texans were able to do that last week. And then as long, I mean, this is the wild thing about all of these teams that are playing for their championship. Okay. The team that makes the fewest mistakes is always at a significant advantage. None of these teams has a turnover in the playoffs so far. Granted, the Chiefs, they only played 1 game so far, but the Bills, 2 games, no turnovers. Commanders, 2 games, no turnovers. Eagles, 2 games, no turnovers. All this being said, I just really feel like, and I want to hope that the stars are aligning, and this is the time for nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. I think that this is how they exercise their demons. They make that trip. This is kind of setting up when, and we're going to make the comparison of the Allen and Mahomes rivalry to the Brady and Manning rivalry. Eventually, Manning got Brady. Maybe this is the time he goes there. I am going against my best interest on this one, but if I'm going to take, I think it's a coin flip game, and if you're going to give me the +2.5 or the +120 on the money line, I'm going to take the plus odds on this one, and I'm going to go with the Bills. Bets are already in. Can't do anything about it, and now that's my prediction. So we're going to go Buffalo, and I'm thinking it's going to be something kind of close, kind of tight, maybe like a 23-21 kind of final on there. I will tell you the Bills will do everything in their power to not give the ball to Patrick Mahomes with a chance to win the game. That's the one guarantee I will say, is that if the Chiefs are winning this game, it's because they went for start to finish on this one. For the Bills are going to need to be winning at halftime and then hold on for dear life. I kind of look at this to being like what they did in the regular season this year. Again, the Bills have beaten the Chiefs by margin. It's just a matter of, can they do it again? I think that they're going to do it this time, so I'm going to go with the Bills. Now we're going to go over on the other side here, where I would love nothing more. We're going to the NFC. I would love nothing more than for this to be the Commanders. I'm trying to find any reason I possibly can. That's a real sexy number there, that money line. I think it's like +240. Give me the 6 points. Look, as I've often said with gambling, you can make a lot of money following a streak. You can only win once going against it. The fact remains of that we have never, ever had a rookie quarterback take his team to the Super Bowl. Jaden Daniels is profiled to be unlike any other rookie before. I mean, and this is the show that I'm evolving as a person. I've spoke highly of Peyton Manning, which is something I never thought would have ever happened on this podcast. I'm also going to say something high about Andrew Luck. I don't think that Jaden Daniels is quite at the Andrew Luck level, but he is quite impressive. Parlaying in the answer to the last game. At the end of the day, all things equal, let's just take the best player on the field. I think that Josh Allen right now is better than Patrick Mahomes, and that's why I'm taking the Bills to beat the Chiefs. The best player on the field in this game is going to be Saquon Barkley. And I look at watching the game a week ago. If Jared Goff isn't Jared Goff, I don't know. I mean, the Commanders could not be stopped on offense. I will say that one. But the way that Jahmyr Gibbs was running, and I've been saying Jahmyr Gibbs, if he was given Saquon Barkley's workload, could perform at a similar level. We don't have to worry about the spectacle of that, or the hypothetical of that one. Saquon Barkley is Saquon Barkley. I do think that it's going to be a healthy dose of Saquon Barkley. Now, granted, the Rams were able to bottle him up pretty good, I would say. It was just that those 2 big runs just came back to kill them on there. I don't think that you're scared as the Commanders or as somebody who is picking the Commanders. I don't think you're worried about Jalen Hurts and the offense. I mean, realistically, for the Eagles, I think that they may have the best team in football. They have the best offensive line. They have a solid defense, and they just have the great wide receiver receiving tandem. Jalen Hurts is what's been holding them back. Hasn't thrown for 150 yards in a victory in the playoffs, I believe. hasn't thrown for over 150 in something like 8 weeks. Now, granted, that's a sensationalized statistic because he has had a couple games he missed due to injury on there. And then they also did, but he didn't play one, or he sat him he missed part of one game. I just think that Saquon's going to be too much in this one. And while I think that you're always going to feel like, if it's within a 2-score game, I expect the Commanders to keep this one kind of close. But if it gets to be where they're chasing points, if they're down 10 points in the fourth quarter, I have the faith that they can get a touchdown, or that Jaden Daniels can still lead them to scores. But can they get the stops on Barkley? And then does that tush-push play, which we have to see. Jalen Hurts could be hurt, but how hurt is he? Is he need to be healthy to do the tush-push? I just don't like the idea that I don't think that, like I said, that the Bills don't want to give Mahomes a chance to have the ball to win the game. I don't think that the Eagles are going to want to have you go down with the one that brought you there. I think that if it's in those 4th and short situations, which if you're trying to run out the clock, 3 carries to Saquon and then 1 tush push, that's really, really tough to swallow on there. I would love nothing more to be wrong in this one. Again, my life has been a self-made hell as Tennessee is now down 2 with the ball on minute 10. Okay. I was originally trying to have a podcast where I had Eagles fans on there to try to get in the inner psyche of them. And I'm not trying to go through, we had Ryan Caldwell show us everything that is possibly wrong with Eagles fans, as far as that they can be good, decent people, but for some reason during those 4 hours of the game, they become unbearable. I have firsthand access to this on this phone with my chat of Eagles fans, that when I was trying to organize a podcast, which organizing 4 adult men to have the same availability, it just doesn't happen anymore. Or, especially guys with kids, me having a girlfriend, there's just the stars were not aligning on there. Tennessee, they can get the go-ahead basket right here. Let's go. Okay. We're doing a little live sweat degeneracy right now. I'm sorry if you're watching this on a delay. It's just me, keep myself focused here. But anyways, so I probably should have finished all the points that I was trying to make, and then, do the side-by-side guarantee here. Let's see. This is going to shoot. Oh, it's blocked. And, damn it. All right. Well, we got to play some defense. Oh, and there's a foul. Okay, well, we'll be back to the degenerate stuff in a second here. But sorry for the 48 people that I have in here that you're now watching the ADD fest that can be the Scho-Zone from time to time. But, yeah, I just don't think that they're going to give them the chance to beat them on that. So I think if I was to give like my absolute best bet on this whole card, I'm going to say a 2-team teaser of the Bills teased up to 8.5. Get me over that full score. The Chiefs aren't blowing anybody out. And then I'm going to go with taking the Eagles tease down to the half points or whatever. It's not a full Stanford Wong teaser, but I think it'll get you home. That's what I'm feeling. That's where my money's going. Again, I'd love to be wrong. That's right. Having the Eagles fans on here, I'd love nothing more than these guys to be wrong. I have to now, these 3 guys, 2 of them watch the game with each other, and then I just basically am now the facilitator of them talking to one of my best friends here. So good friends in from the Rochester area, a good friend in the Albany area, and then I just get to sit there and just read their text throughout the game, try to pour gas in the fire occasionally. But the Eagles keep winning, and life just gets to be more and more miserable for us here. I don't know if I can handle 2 weeks of Eagles fans pumping their chest out, although there is the grand payout of that. I don't think, regardless of which, I think that the NFC is not going to win the Super Bowl this year. I think the AFC is winning the Super Bowl, regardless of which team makes it there. And I'm just going to wrap this one up again. I'm that bitter old man that's, just furious at the sports world and whatnot. We just had our first expanded college football playoff. Overall verdict on that one, I would say to be determined. I'm going to give it a full 5 years to evaluate my total thoughts and conclusions on it. I think there's some room for improvement for sure, some room for the seeding. The big thing I'm going to say is that they need to get the timetable moved out here, and I've seen it's only going to get worse by there being next year. The championship game is now slated for the 25th of January. My brain is not wired. This old 39, going to be 40 by the time this next game is played. I'm used to college football not going much longer than New Year's Eve. Okay, we had the 4-game playoff where we went, or New Year's Day, where we went a week longer. I remember thinking this Monday, what am I going to do? And then going, oh shit, there is a national title game. For the ratings to be down on a national title game between 2 fan bases like Ohio State and Notre Dame, granted, 2 of the most obnoxious fan bases out there, but 2 very large fan bases, for there not be the level of interest. I mean, again, I know the SEC comes to the party big time, no SEC team available there, but it's not like they didn't watch. They watched to hate. Everyone was supposed to be watching to hate, but we had low ratings for that tournament, for that national title game. Granted, maybe not the I mean, it was the 7th and the 8th team, I think, according to the seedings on there, which does not mean that the tournament is vindicated, that we got the best teams in there, or that this whole thing worked out. I think Ohio State, for me, when you devalue them losing to a rival, and it looks like I just am a loser on my bet, I should have taken the points, but hey, points are for pussies. Tennessee loses by 2.5. Me, bank account a couple dollars later. That's why you got to cash that shit out once you're up, because I cashed out and then some money from earlier today from some degenerate soccer parlays that I was playing, and then able to have a couple bucks to play around with. On to the next one, we'll say. And on to the next one here. I'm trying to wrap things up with a college football take I didn't prepare myself for, but that was that. So we have recapped 1 year in the Scho-Zone here. Everyone, thanks for tuning in and listening. I'm going to be kind of shifting away from sports content a little bit more so. I've now started my little edition of podcast called the Scho-Zone Recovery Room, where we're getting people who have struggled with some form of addiction, having them on here, telling their story. I think that they make for great conversations. It can also be some lending tools for everybody. So check those episodes back. I had one with a gentleman named Anthony Cruz who went through his little journey from being a heroin addict to being clean, or polarizing topic in that community. He does methadone, which is, keeps him off of heroin. Some people say that that's not really being sober. Anyways, I'll let him sort all that out. I'll tease this with, he had a wonderful story about accidentally shooting up acid instead of shooting up heroin, which sounds as horrible as could possibly be. Can't imagine that that's a real fun time when you think you're going to go to one extreme and you go to the other. But now I also have an episode in the can I've recorded with a lovely woman named Emily, a church-going lady who was hiding a 4-bottle of wine a day problem, which her and I had a lot of parallels, even though the skin that we present to you are much different. But deep down, we all went through the same struggles on there. So trying to get some more people out there, just kind of talk about their story, their journey. Most of us people who are in some form of recovery, as far as I can say, we're the only people that are capable of having a legitimate conversation where I can trust the other person as being forthright with me. It's the person that's still using something. They're the people you got to watch out for a little bit. Maybe because they don't quite understand reality. Maybe because they have altered it for their own convenience sake. We're going to be doing some of those. And I'm also thinking about another little side thing I'm going to do. I got to try to do something different here. Again, there's a bunch of Tom, Dick, and Harrys out here talking sports like Ryan Schofield is. And I just did refer to myself in the third person. Yes, that's what we do in the Scho-Zone. It's my show, my rules. I do what I want. But maybe starting to get, my real close touch to sports here is, I was a good high school athlete that wasn't good enough to play in college. And if I could have played in college, I wasn't actually going to play. But hearing that journey of, I do know what it's like to be an athlete and have your life revolve around a sport. I know what it's like to have your life revolve around sports in general, but maybe start talking to some former athletes who fizzled out, not at the professional ranks, maybe made it to the Division III level or so, or maybe made it to Division I. Maybe we'll shoot high on there, but make this a nice, forum for people to kind of just talk about themselves and, what their story was and what they're doing now and how they're coping with things. Basically, one of the reasons I like doing this podcast is to be able to have some good conversations and some good feedback with everybody. So like, subscribe, comment, share, all that douchebag stuff that podcast hosts like myself say, and we'll be coming at you year number 2. We're going to be going some goals. We got some goals we've got to go on here. Stefan, I'm getting caught up on your comments. I wonder if there's a delay of them coming here. Do I believe they try to prove me wrong by having Lamar throw than they run? It's plausible. I don't want to think that a coach actually does that. But considering the first half, again, Derrick Henry only had 8 carries. In the second half, when they wanted to run the ball, it seemed that they could do it at will. And then they had to throw the ball when they had no choice. They did that with some success, but without wide. They started throwing the ball without wide receivers. They were using their tight ends as wide receivers at that point. It just didn't seem like the ideal game plan. Ultimately, where I think the Bills may be a team of destiny is that I feel like if they were to play the Ravens 10 times, I feel like that the Ravens may have won 7 of them. But the one that they played was the one that was last Sunday, and that's what we're setting up here. The Redskins' run defense, can they key in on? It's going to be a matter of how limited is Jalen Hurts. I think that you obviously are going to sell out to focus to stop Saquon Barkley. Can Jalen Hurts make you pay for that? I don't know that he can. So that's the one thing I think that's going good in Washington's favor on that one. But again, I think the best player on the field is Saquon Barkley. And to make things easier, I'm going to say that go with the best player on the field. That has usually worked before. Many cases, that's why you would pick the Chiefs, because Patrick Mahomes is usually the best player on the field. But I think this year that best player on the field was Josh Allen. I think the best player on the field last Sunday was Josh Allen, although he did not have to be the best player. But anyways, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Check out any of the old episodes. We're going to be trying to, maybe we'll make the Saturday Night Live feature a little bit more because I'm kind of, with it. I'm professionally dressed. I've come from my professional gig where I've been, talking. I've got the mental muscles warmed up. But I'm really trying to get things posted on Mondays and Wednesdays, making that a go-to day to have new content put out there for you. So if you want to cue those in there, some of them may be recorded, some of them may be live, who knows? But everybody, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Like, subscribe, comment, share, all of that douchebag stuff that I like to say. I'm just trying to fill some time in here until we bring you to the outro. Peace. Thank you. Good night, everybody.